أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم دست يا سيدي مدد Sheikh Muhammad Adwar Rabbani Subhanallah Sultanullah Nabi Muhammad alayhi salam Subhanallah Sultanullah Nabi Muhammad alayhi salam Subhanallah Sultanullah Nabi Muhammad alayhi salam. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Praise be to Allah. Blessed day of Ashura, big day when all the major events and miracles happened. Adam was forgiven and the flood waters receded for Noah. And so many things happening. The saints are given their sainthood on this day. So they kind of graduate on this day. So it's really an incredibly blessed day. And it's shared in the Jewish faith as well, the day of Ashura. I'm not sure of the Jewish history behind it as well, but it was honored by Prophet Muhammad because it was a Jewish holy day. And he honored it as well. So happy Ashura Day to all of you. And you're probably getting this on the same day if you're watching it right as it's up. So today's class we're going to cover scratch the surface of the major parts of the technical aspects of Hijama. We're not going to cover them all, but we're going to try to get to several of them right now. And it will be for those who graduate this, course and who go on to do the Hijama Intensive, which is a 7-day program. Then, if you're accepted beyond that point, you're taught for free. And what would happen then is that what I believe will happen then, we haven't really put together everything yet, but what I'd like to do is expose you to 2 or 3 different practitioners. So they're not necessarily able to teach you or give you an ijaaza, but you'll be able to go and actually experience their practice. And this way it'll give you kind of a broad spectrum of how different people handle, clients and what different practices they incorporate into their therapy procedures. Most of the major stuff needs to be held constant, but there's, peculiarities or, things that you'll find with one practitioner that you won't find with another. So giving you that practical and giving you the experience from 2 or 3 different practitioners. So during the time that, Hijama is recommended for the optimal days, you'll go and volunteer, probably with myself first, and then 2 other people that we know that are practicing in the area. One who's an acupuncturist. So, if you make it down that far, then that's when the actual real practical training begins, and you'll be able to ask all your questions, and you'll have the teacher available to you any time of the day, to answer any additional questions that you have. So we're there for you and supporting you and helping you as much as we can. And again, at that point, it becomes our duty to assist you to try to preserve the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. So it would be our honor and, our pleasure. So this process here, again, is just to identify those people who are, of that caliber and who can receive that training. So inshallah, I hope some of you qualify for that, and we'll be seeing you later and being able to actually show you the technical aspects of this. So I won't be actually demonstrating anything right now, so I'll just be talking about it kind of theoretical. But you can take the video that is called the grapefruit video, and through kind of a little dream I had, it came to me that the grapefruit, using the grapefruit, because I'd heard earlier that the syringe inside the grapefruit acts very much like human skin. So it occurred to me that the grapefruit might work for the cupping as well. And I woke up one morning with that in my mind and went out and purchased a big, huge grapefruit. And sure enough, it works perfectly. The cups adhere to it perfectly, just like on skin. And the cutting process with the razor blade or the scalpel is almost identical to the consistency and the resistance that's provided by skin. So if you haven't tried it yet, first take a look at that video and see how it was done, and then you can practice on the grapefruit without burning people and messing up or doing the cutting wrong or something like that. You can become proficient on the actual grapefruit. We tried an eggplant first, and the eggplant skin was a little bit too hard, so it didn't really work as well. It did adhere to it, and it worked somewhat, but we found that the grapefruit worked a lot better. I think the trick is to get a big grapefruit or a smaller cup, one of the two. But it'll let you be able to practice the process of putting the fire in the cup and then pushing it onto the simulated skin of the grapefruit, because it has to be a firm application to make sure all the suction remains inside the cup and the cup actually adheres to the skin. And once you get that down, then you of course remove the cup, and you can practice the cutting technique with the skin of the grapefruit. So it really works extremely well, and it'll be loaded on the web page for this particular class. So go take a look at that, and then you can get the supplies to do that. With respect to the supplies, we're working out a deal with a Chinese outfit to send us a crate of cups. The problem with the pricing of the cups is that the shipping costs so much that you can't get the better deals in China without ordering a huge crate. So we're actually putting together a kit. It's not going to be just individual cups. Instructing them to put the cups inside of a sealed plastic bag, so people absolutely know that that particular cup has never been used on anybody else. And then they'll be contained in a styrofoam, package that will be easily shipped. And in that we'll have the essentials of the different equipment that you need and supplies that you need to actually do the cupping, minus the like kerosene or the alcohol or whatever you use as an accelerant. You can't ship that and you can't send that to people, so they have to find a source of that separate from the actual kit that we're sending. But the idea is that, if you graduate and you go on to becoming a practitioner, you can instruct your clients to order these kits directly, and you'll be given, a percentage. It's kind of like a drop shipment arrangement, where you make the sale, you get a percentage of the sale, so you're making money on it too. And we'll ship the kits directly from our central location. So the person gets the kit, they have the complete assurance that the kit has never been used by anybody else, and they're getting a fresh kit. So the fresh kit, again, will contain these cups inside the actual plastic bag. So it might be, 3 large cups, 3 medium cups, and 3 small cups, enough for one individual to have a full, cupping session. And in this way, it's, important to make people have the comfort level, because you walk into a, practitioner's office and you see the glass cups there sitting on the shelf, and of course they can tell you that the glass cups have never been used, but there's no assurance that they haven't been used. So for their protection and their peace of mind, so to speak, we've come up with a system that will make it possible to send a large shipment of these cups to a central location. Everybody will be able to make some profit off of it, and then people will be happy that they get the cups, and they can keep the cups themselves, and wash them and reuse them and bring them back for themselves only. But the recommendation very clearly from our teacher is that you never use the cups again. So I don't know if that applies to people using the same cups who have used them before, as long as there's no cross-contamination. But it may apply to everybody, because maybe the old blood somehow can cause disease, even though it's the person's blood themselves. I'm not really sure about that. I'll try to get some information on that and ask our teacher and see what he says about that. But I suspect that it has more to do with cross-contamination than anything else. So we will be going into more detail about hygiene, but that is an aspect of the hygiene that is important. So that's why I'm bringing it up right now. So the cups will be ordered. They'll be sent directly to people, and they would have to, of course, order them, a few days or weeks in advance. So you may have to have a few supplies on hand for people that, forget to do it or show up to your office and haven't secured or ordered their supplies yet. Of course, you'll know that because you'll be handling the shipment. The drop shipment order will be placed to us, and then it'll get sent out. So this is one of the services that we're trying to provide, and there'll be other supplies and stuff that people can purchase that will be useful for them. So the Hijama process, I want to emphasize this point first and foremost. And this, if you don't take anything else away from the technical aspects of Hijama, I hope you take away this. There's a couple points really that you need to take away and keep in mind, but in probably order of priority, over cupping, the use of 25, 30, 40 cups on somebody. And you see pictures like this on the internet all the time with people placing cup after cup after cup on somebody's back, no matter what the method is, whether it's a pump action plastic cup method or whether it's the glass fire method. It's still a very large amount of cups, which is completely unnecessary. A lot of people are charging by the cup, so there's an incentive to put as many cups on the patient as possible. And this is absolutely wrong. So I'll share with you the talk I had with my teacher's teacher shortly before he passed away. He very specifically sat me down, and it was clearly important that he wanted to convey this to me, so I understood it. And he told me that there is 6 points on the body, that if you cup those 6 points, then the entire body is cleansed. And there's no need to put cups anywhere else. So if you're doing this for general health and the health benefits, and somebody's coming to you and you have arranged for them to come on the optimal day, which is something we'll talk about in a few minutes here, all you need to do is put these 6 cups on the primary locations of the body, and you can be certain that the effect of the cupping will be sufficient for the entire body. So that is true for any ailment, and it is true for any condition. So if somebody comes in with a sports-related injury and has very specific complaints about a shoulder or a hip or something, in the leg or calf, and they want a localized treatment for that particular area, then 2 or 3 cups on that area may suffice, especially if it was in addition to a follow-up visit of a general session that did these 6 cups. So say in the spring of 2015, somebody came in and they did the general cupping for the 6 points, and their entire body is clean now. And then 2 months from now, from that point in let's say April of 2015, May, June, July, somewhere around there, they experience a sports-related injury, and they come into you for treatment. You can treat them because it's a quote-unquote emergency situation or a specific need. But typically, you should never cup anybody more than twice a year. So the cupping is best suited as a preventative health measure. It's not the best treatment for curing, chronic illness after it occurs. What it's best for is preventative. So if you can encourage patients to come on a regular basis, once a year is typically the best solution for people over 30. And then if people get, to an elderly age or they start experiencing high blood pressure or chronic illness, you can up that to twice a year. And the very best times for once a year would be the spring, because similar to the life coming, out of the buds blooming on the tree, this energy and this process and this time of the year activates that same sort of growth inside of your body. And it's good, and it's important for you to get the cupping at that particular time of the year, and it provides maximum benefit for you to do so at that particular time of the year. So if you can do cupping as a preventative measure, and you can do it on the optimal days in the spring, then you're truly serving people the best, because you're preventing any illness from coming into their lives, and you're keeping them healthy and in good shape, and you're not allowing chronic illness to take hold in that person if they continue to do this over a period of time. So again, cupping is 100% better used as a preventative measure than anything else. Having said that, if something does come up and there's a high blood pressure problem, or person's had a stroke, or especially somebody who has epilepsy, it's very effective with epilepsy, then it can be utilized, of course, anytime. And the optimal days aren't as important, but they are good to abide by as much as you possibly can. But in certain circumstances, you don't have that luxury. So again, as a preventative, if you can do that early, spring, when the flowers start to bloom, and then you don't want to go beyond the time where the leaves start to change on the trees, because then everything starts to become cold, and the cycle is death at that point. It's hibernation. And like the hibernation in the trees, and we're in that environment, we're hibernating ourselves. Our bodies go through a similar process. So you don't want that, to inhibit the benefits of the Hijama. So if you can do it in the summer months, sometimes it's not possible. You don't have enough time slots to be able to take care of everybody. Then, you can open it up to the other summer months and take care of the people that are only doing it once a year, any time during that summer month. The summer being, of course, the best time, because the heat has a positive effect on the body as well. So when your body's a little bit hotter, it actually has a more positive effect on the cupping process itself. So, points to be made. You don't have to cup, 100 points on the body to get good results. And those people that are doing it are just conning people and charging by the cup and giving people what they want, because, everybody in society thinks more is better, and it's absolutely not the case. You're putting people at risk when you do too much cupping. There's a number of different reasons for that. Even if you're not extracting the blood, you're also creating harm from putting too many cups on people. And we touched upon that a little bit in the previous class, but we'll try to go into it a little bit more here. We may need a little bit more in this 1 hour to cover the major points of cupping that you need to understand. Because you'll need to understand this before you go to a practitioner and let them do it to you, because many of them are not understanding these things, and you don't want to fall victim to somebody. So, the 6 points, let me tell you about the 6 points, are the top of the head, and the back, or the crown, where like somebody has a calic usually growing. And that is a interesting spiritual point as well as a physical point, because that's a place where the soul is actually pulled out of the body by the angel when you die. So it's a very sensitive area, both physically and spiritually. It's one of the reasons why we cover our head, because we're protecting that very sensitive area on our head. There's also, of course, the reverence of covering in front of God and those kinds of things, and being modest. But there's the spiritual aspect of it too, that this is the point where the angels pull your soul out. So it's an interesting place that it would be, one of the places that is necessary to cup. It's a difficult place to cup because it's where the hair is, and individuals don't want their hair cut because you do have to shave the head, and you want to eliminate the hair in that area for not only sanitary purposes, but for suction purposes. Because when you're utilizing the fire cupping method, the suction is limited, and to get a proper seal, you do have to shave the head in the back. So even with that, head shaved, and with the proper technique used with the fire cupping, you'll sometimes have difficulty putting it on that area because it's quite bony, and depending on the shape of somebody's scalp. But if you adjust the cup, size, or you try a smaller cup, you can often, overcome any problems that you have. And if you continue to try in that area, it gradually pulls up the skin a little bit, and it gives you more of a loose skin around there that will eventually adhere to the cup. So just, keep trying it 2 or 3 times, and you'll probably be successful. I've never had, to do it more than twice. To get a proper suction on there, so hopefully you'll have the same kind of success. But that point on the back, you should be very careful when you're doing the head to observe the optimal days that you're supposed to do it, and make absolutely certain that you try to do it in the spring or the fall or the summer months. That head position specifically should have the most respect and reverence for when you do it and how you do it. So we'll get into the how and when, quite a bit more when you actually start learning from practitioners. But for now, it's important to know that for yourselves. And then the 2 points, which are on the shoulder blade of the back. I think acupuncturists call it the heart position, and it's it's about 2-3 inches away from the spine on either side, near where the shoulder blades are. And this specific location is not crucial. I mean, it's pretty forgiving. If you put it anywhere in that area, it should do the job fairly well. But that is the second and third point that you want to do. And then the fourth point is at the base of the spine, usually about 1 or 2 inches right above where the crack in your buttocks starts. And that is a risky point because it's where most people will experience, passing out. The draw coming down from the spine and pulling blood down through the body and from the brain can cause people to pass out and faint. And that's one of the reasons why, we try not to have people laying down flat when we're doing cupping. We actually favor the sitting up position and having a monitor in front of the person to make sure that they're not going to pass out and fall forward. But that is an indicator that, these cups have to come off immediately. And without knowing that they have passed out, if they're in a full downward position on a massage table, they could pass out and you would never know it until you start talking to them. And sometimes you get busy or distracted and you're not really paying attention to the patient then. But when you have, 200-pound person falling over, it's pretty clear it's time to take off the cups. But it necessitates that you have an assistant, that you have somebody in front of the person who's monitoring them and making sure that, they're not going to pass out. Typically, it comes on very quickly. You'll start, perspiring and feeling the sweat, and that would be the first indicator that you tell the client to let you know that they're not feeling well. But it comes on extremely rapidly, so I mean it's sometimes impossible for them to tell you, and they just pass out, and you have to take care of it. If you can situate them in a position where when they do go forward, you can handle putting them down in a position that is conducive to taking off the cups that they have on them, then it's best to structure your environment so you're protected against that. If you do put somebody down on a massage table, it's not completely wrong to do so, but you have to be incredibly vigilant and making sure, and maybe the solution is to have that same monitor just continually sit there and talk to the person, or put a mirror down there so you see that their eyes are open, something to continue to monitor, because as soon as they pass out, you should take that cup off. All the cups that are on their body should be removed immediately, and the cupping should stop at that point. On occasion, you may do it in a different area, but typically the session is going to be over at that point. People who pass out generally, are people who really didn't follow the instructions that were given to them. And once you learn more about this, you'll find out that you need to abstain from having sexual relations 48 hours before, that you should watch your diet, that you should not eat or drink anything from the night before. And if you wake up and have a non-acidic kind of herbal tea, that's okay. You can have a little bit of water in the morning, but you should never have any dairy products or food or anything heavy. And people who eat something can typically, have more problems when they come for the Hijama session. And of course, they're not going to tell you because they've been told not to do it, but they go ahead and do it anyway. So you'll run into mostly problems with that. You'll run into problems with people who are on the verge of getting the flu or getting sick, and typically you'll find out, the flu oftentimes will give you bubbles when the blood is actually being extracted from the body. You'll see bubbles in the blood coming out. That's kind of an indication that they have a fever or virus or something. So you'll learn over time. I mean, these are the things that you need to experience and understand, and you'll get through, experience. So it's not expected to understand all the nuances of, the different things that can happen. But these major things are things, of course, that you need to be completely aware of, even when you go for Hijama, therapy for yourself. So the fourth point, again, is at the base of the spine, or right above the crack in the buttocks. And typically we put a larger cup on that position, not only because the spine is in the way and it's more conducive to adhering the cup to that position, but also because it is a little bit gentler in that area. So you're extracting and pulling, a little bit more, less force, that is. Sometimes, of course, with men and stuff, you have to shave that area. You have to shave the back as well to get a proper adherence to the skin with the cupping. So that is pretty much, just common sense. It's also for hygiene that you don't want the hair, there. And of course, you sterilize the area with different sterilants before you begin the process as well. Some people like to provide a massage and use a cup and move it around, and that's a good practice to get into, because it does begin to generate a wider area of response for the cupping procedure. So I don't object to that, but we'll talk a little bit more about the massage cupping and what I think about that and what problems are associated with it. So the other 2 points, if you can do it, this is a more difficult points to do. You need smaller cups typically, but the inside of the heel, right below the knuckle on the foot, is a place that's extremely beneficial to do. But you can see oftentimes a lot of veins sticking out down there, and you have to be careful not to perforate those veins. And it is a little bit risky for some, and you'll find it extremely difficult with some patients, no matter what size cup you try to put on them. It just doesn't seem to work out. And in those cases, you can, give up and go ahead and go to the top of the knee on both of the legs. And better off if you put the legs up on a chair or a stool or something like that, so you get more draw off of the feet. But the top of the knee is, right above the kneecap, about an inch or two, and the fatty part of the leg, the thigh, is okay alternative place for the 6 points. So again, in review, the top of the head here, the 2 back points of the shoulder blades, the base of the spine, and the 2 inner ankles, or alternatively the 2 tops of the knees, are the 6 points that are required to clean out the entire body. So this leads to the second point of this theory that the more blood the better, and this is a common misconception that is perpetrated by all sorts of people. Even highly regarded accomplished scholars are getting this wrong. Hamza Yusuf talked about this, that he went for cupping and was sharing his experience, and was thrilled that he got so much blood out of his back when somebody put the cups on. You should have seen how much blood was taken out, as if that was beneficial and something to be that was a goal to achieve. That the more blood the better. So it's common. It's not unusual for people to think that way, because they think that the more blood the better the body gets clean. And this is absolutely not the case. And this is probably the second major point that I would like you to understand. Don't overcup. Don't use too many cups on people. It's completely unnecessary. Number 2, do not extract too much blood. So overcupping, of course, lends to too much blood. But the worst enemy to taking good blood instead of the bad blood that is extracted from the actual Hijama process are these confounded pumps and these plastic cups. And 10, 15 years ago, they didn't even exist, and they just came out recently because they filled a need. They gave people cheap disposable cups that could be thrown away, and that was something that was extremely attractive to people. They eliminated the need for fire, which of course comes with all the hazards of dealing with accelerants and with lighting somebody's house on fire when you're using it, or in the clinical situation, dropping the fire on their clothes. And then the real possibility too of burning their skin, because you can, if you put the fire in the cup in a wrong manner, and you delay putting it onto the actual skin. Well, that fire is burning the inside of the cup the whole time that you have it in your hand. And you don't feel it because you're in the back of the cup, but you're, getting that heat on the rim of the cup. And, believe me, people have been, branded with these, delays in putting it on there. Which is why that grapefruit method is, so useful, because it will actually scar the grapefruit as well if you do it improperly. So it gives you time to practice and practice and practice, and really get this down before you, go and do this with somebody else. So these, fly-by-night practitioners that, just learn on the internet are thrilled to have these pump-action cups, because they don't have to experience, the training, and they don't have to worry about the risk associated with the fire. and they are, selling people on the concept of more is better. And by pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping, you can see on a lot of these videos that you encounter on the internet and pictures of people who are in sessions, they're so proud of themselves because the cup is like almost completely full. The cup will be this big and the blood will be like this much inside the cup. And they're bragging about it, that this is better than, anybody else, and I take out more blood than anybody else. And it has a profound effect on the client too. They believe that this is better. Just like, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf believed this, and he's absolutely wrong. It's not correct. So Hijama has nothing to do with the volume of blood. And in fact, it's counterproductive and it's dangerous to be removing blood. I mentioned it in an earlier class that our teacher said that it takes like 15 morsels of food to, make 1 drop of blood. Well, that's, a day's worth of food to produce a drop of blood. You can do the math and see that it takes a huge amount of energy and, time and effort to make blood. So when you're extracting all that good blood from somebody's body and, they're leaving you with all this blood taken from them, they're going to feel bad. They're not going to feel good. It's not going to be a benefit to them. And how long does it take to rejuvenate all that blood? I don't know. I mean, there are restrictions on how often that you can donate blood for that very reason, because it takes quite a while for your body to rejuvenate it. But I think those restrictions are not restrictive enough. I think that, somebody should not be giving blood more than once a month at best, and certainly not on a regular basis. So it's just crazy to be pulling out that kind of blood, and totally and completely counterproductive and unnecessary. Hijama is, again, a spiritual process, and it does involve angels. And you can believe that, don't believe that, then believe the fact that the dead blood cells are being removed from the body are not the same as healthy blood. And the process of the heat inside the cup and the limitation that puts on the suction that you can use in extracting blood is part of the process that allows it to regulate itself. So it's a perfect amount of suction from the fire. And you will get varying degrees of suction depending on your technique, but you can only achieve so much suction from fire, and it's enough. It's exactly what is necessary. It's not harmful, and it's pulling and extracting the dead blood cells to the surface of the skin, and then you open it up with the lance or razor blade or whatever you're using, and you extract that dead blood cell from the skin. There is a process. There are things to be said. There is a religious, blessing that comes on this, and there is angels who, effectuate and are responsible for cleaning the capillaries and the arteries and whatnot, and bringing out these, dead blood cells. So you can say that's superstition, you can say that's crazy, but this is the difference between hijama and cupping, is that there is a religious aspect to this, and this is part of that religious aspect. So if you don't believe it or not, and just consider the fact that removing too much blood from somebody's body is completely counterproductive and can be even dangerous. So, cupping is extremely forgiving. There's very few occurrences of people, actually recording events that, would suggest that cupping is danger to people. But, unfortunately, it's because it comes so far down the line, you can't equate it to the actual cupping. process, and it never gets blamed, but actually it is a result of the bad cupping practices that resulted in injury later down the road. That injury coming from coagulated blood not being removed, the dead blood cells being drawn to the surface, and the blood not coming out, then has to go somewhere, and it's going to either, congregate in, one specific part of the body, or even if it dissipates and goes back into the body itself, it's just completely useless to have even attempted that. And you're running the risk of, this accumulating in one specific area, which can even result in blood clots. Now, if a blood clot happens 3-4 months down the road, and nobody sees the marks on you, and you go to emergency room, nobody's going to think back and think that the hijama or cupping had anything to do with it. They may even conclude that, I should have had more blood taken out of my body, and then this wouldn't have happened to me. When in fact it was the bad practices that caused the, clot to occur 2-3 months down the road. So you get benefit from cupping that occurs 3 months after the actual procedure, but you also can get problems 2 or 3 months after. And that's not something, I want to broadcast or, even admit, but it's important to understand it nonetheless, because you have, people that are doing things that are harming people, and it should be clearly understood that these are dangers that need to be respected. So we'll get into the massage cupping, techniques a little bit more, which I am vehemently opposed to. If you're doing it just as a quick process of rubbing the cups over the skin to kind of, make the skin come alive a little bit, and not doing it as a procedure to actually start the process of pulling the blood to that one spot. And of course, the second that you put the cups on, you're pulling blood to that one spot. So it is a fine line between putting the cup on and moving it quickly so nothing accumulates in that one area, and then you don't have problems later. So is massage cupping something that should be practiced? In my opinion, generally not. It's not something that should be done. But if you are going to do it, then don't allow a red mark to appear on the body. And that, again, is a matter of 2, 3, 4 seconds. Sometimes that mark will start to appear. If you do, you can just, slide the cup around on the body and then remove it. So with varicose veins and with, different skin disorders and things of that nature, there may be, beneficial use to that. I wouldn't object to using it, and I probably would use it if my heart, indicated that that was a good practice to try there. But nothing replaces the benefit of the actual hijama on, specific places near the problem area, extracting and bringing the dead blood cells to the surface, oxygenating that whole entire area and the whole entire body when you do the optimal 6 points. So I see I'm getting, out of time here already, and I'm surprised because I've got a lot more to talk about. So maybe we'll have to go into another class about this stuff. But just trying to review in my mind some of the more important aspects of this. The optimal days, this is what separates a lot of hijama practitioners from cupping practitioners. The cupping people don't abide by these days. And if there's one thing that I would recommend to the cupping people more than anything, is to abide by these days as much as possible. The lunar calendar and the tidal influences that are effectuated in, the waves and the tide coming in and out, that same coming in and out process that's effectuated by the moon has a great influence on a person's body. So you have in days and you have out days. And those in days and out days are, the in day is going to be, counterproductive to cupping as opposed to the out day. Do you still get benefit on an in day? Yes, you do. So if you really have to do it and you mess up, because sometimes you just get the wrong day. So there's, nothing that is lost from doing it on the wrong day, as long as, you get it right the next time. But you're going to be much more productive and get much, much, much better results if you do get the day right. And then there's, different problems associated with, the title new moon and when it, actually appears and when that day actually falls on. And you can easily get it wrong. You could be off by one day. So if you're off by one day, you're going to be doing it on the even day, and you just may not get as much blood or as much productivity out of it as you would on the odd day. But to the extent that you're able to do it, you're going to benefit your patients by doing it on these odd days. You're going to benefit your patients by doing it in spring. You're going to benefit your patients by doing it as a preventative method of health more than a treatment for illness. You're going to benefit your patients by doing it on the optimal days, which are not only the last half of the lunar calendar. So you're talking about the odd day in the last half of the lunar calendar. So you'll be looking at the 17th, the 19th, the 21st, the 23rd, and it's pushing it, but you can go to the 25th as well. I wouldn't go past the 25th, especially if you're doing the head. Do the head on those days only. Try not to mess with that on any other day. And you'll be, truly protecting and helping your patients by adhering to that. Those days are limited by the fact that Wednesday is blood day. One of the few remaining questions I have in my religion is, what is this blood day and why is it a problem and why does disease result from this blood day? So it's a cursed day, basically, I think, and I want to get more information on that. And when I do, I'll share it with you, but this is an outstanding question that I have that I'd like to ask, is what is this blood day? But I have enough respect, and I've, seen my religion be correct on every other aspect of it. Once I dig into something and ask questions, I suddenly learn the reasoning behind why it's done. And I'm satisfied as to, why it's necessary to listen to these things. In this particular case, I don't know why Wednesday is blood day, and I want to find out more information on that. But it is prohibited to do anything to deal with blood on Wednesdays. So I won't even get a shot on Wednesdays. And I won't have somebody remove or take my blood on Wednesdays. Because the threat of illness or disease is what the prohibition is for. And again, why, I can't tell you why, but I don't need to know why. Some of you that don't follow the religion of Islam might, want to know specifics, and I'll try to get that for you. But for me, it's sufficient to know that it's not allowed. I'm not going to do it. So I've even canceled, an operation that I was going to have on that day. So it's something I take quite serious, and I would, highly, highly recommend you take it serious. And if you're an ijaaza, practitioner, you must take it serious, because that's one of the requirements of my ijaaza, certainly, is that you abide by these prohibitions and you respect them. And if you don't, then, you should call yourself a cupping practitioner. You shouldn't call yourself a Hijama practitioner, because that's what people expect when they come to see you, and they should be able to expect that and trust that. So this, lost my train of thought. Good. Somebody call me. Tell me what I was talking about. Anyway, there's, many aspects of this that are necessary for us to abide by, and there's quite a few more that I can get into as well. But we're definitely going to need another class to go over all this. So, the massage cupping is something I don't recommend. People make a lot of money from their practice, and if you're going to call yourself a Hijama practitioner, I don't recommend incorporating massage cupping. It's not what Hijama is for. Well, trying to see where we should transition now. Well, I know what your homework assignment is. Let me talk about that since I'm having a blank here. Your homework is to have a contest, basically. It's not homework per se, but I would like you to get 2 horrific examples of cupping over the internet and share them with everybody else. And then I'll post those on next week's class. So if you can get them in sooner rather than later, that would be better for me, so I can get everything organized and put up on the web page for the next class. And if not the next class, the class following that. So if you are late putting them up, we'll just do it the following week. So, there's huge amounts of horrific examples out there, and, find 2 or 3 of them that are really just terrible practices, and, you might want to indicate to me why you think those are so horrible. And in doing so, you'll be acclimating yourself, if you haven't already done it, to the many horrors that are out there over what people are claiming is, appropriate practices, which are absolutely not. You'll see, 100 cups on somebody's body, and you'll see different things that they're doing and claiming. Probably, the worst of all is them pretending to be doctors and advising people on, medical problems that they have absolutely no training for or understanding of. So, I believe also natural healing booklet, which we're presenting to you as a gift. I'm not sure if that'll be on the website webpage for this class or the next class, but look for that for this class and the next class, and you'll find that it's incredibly useful, and it will help guide any practitioner into the many natural cures and remedies for all sorts of disease. If you read the preface of that book too, it provides a lot of useful information on disease itself. One of the interesting points is that it speaks about how there used to be just a few handful of diseases, but then as people's disobedience increased, the disease increased, and the amount of conditions that people were suffering from increased. But you also had these doctors that were, making a profession and making money out of finding new disease. So I talked about that before a little bit too. That they're, running after new diseases so they can give you a new vaccine or a new pill. And in running after that, they are opening it. So you sit in a room and you meditate, and repeat the name of Allah, 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 Allah. That's your focus. That's what you're, spending your time on doing. Then God Almighty is going to open something spiritual for you because that's what your focus is on. The same thing with, somebody who is trying to invent, a new computer chip or something. That's their focus. That's where their energy and time is going. That's what's going to manifest itself and become a reality because they, are somewhat, bringing it into existence by focusing all that energy and time on it. The human being is remarkable and able to do amazing things. But, you focus a human being's attention on something and it's, remarkable how it just starts to manifest. So it is a really interesting area of study, and it's, you know, many different books now being written about this kind of thing. But it doesn't mean that we're God. It doesn't mean that we create, you know, these things for ourselves. It means that God opens them for us because that's what our focus is. So, you know, you're praying for something and asking for something, and, you know, the prayer will be answered. It opens. And the same thing with, you know, spirituality, it opens. So, you know, these diseases that have come about are a combination of people, you know, deserving more illness because they're disobedient, but also with people searching and looking for new illness so they can make money off of it. So these natural cures used to be enough to take care of all the illness, and it was quite easy. And people rarely got sick. It wasn't, you know, unusual for somebody to go through their entire lives without ever being ill. And, you know, they would get ill, and somebody would know that, well, within a few days he'll be in the grave because they got ill to die, you know, and everybody's going to die and taste of death. So this is, you know, some of the wisdom behind the actual healing process. Is it is, you know, something that has manifested itself over time, and if you live right and you know, do the things that you're supposed to be doing, then illness isn't going to touch you. I've had my own bout, and it's because of my own disobedience and because of my own arrogance and because of me not doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing. So there's a consequence for it, and, you know, everybody struggling on different levels, and I'm no different. I'm struggling the same way. So, you know, I've learned the things, and I'm returning now, hopefully, to, you know, better habits, and then this will be transformed back into better health. But I've had to learn the hard way, like a lot of people. Might make me a better healer, so to speak, because I can appreciate, you know, that side of it. But it's no fun. So we all have our struggles. We're all trying to, you know, be better. But when it comes to illness, it's you know, something that can be cured with these remedies. And this book goes into this quite, you know, eloquently in telling you how to prepare the actual, you know, remedy and how to administer it. And you'll see some, you know, amazing results from people utilizing these remedies. So I'm out of time, so we're at 57:42 now, 45, 46. And I, again, feel like I've only scratched the surface, which is why it's so important for you to actually come and sit with a practitioner, because I'm sure we're going to miss a huge amount of stuff. But hopefully this will give you a sound overview of what you need to know to at least understand what a true practitioner really is. So thank you, and again, take a look at the webpage, and we'll see you next class. Alhamdulillah.